The 90s TV action hero was often stoic, physical, and almost mythic in a way. But today, audiences demand, in a way, vulnerability, irony, flaws from the hero. If you were to reboot Renegade now, do you think it would be possible, like in the 90s, or would it need a change?
It would have to be completely different. It would. The show Renegade that from the 90s would not work today because the characters are too defined. You know, now there has to be, you know, some angst, pain, conflict, or else the audience gets they're bored, right? You mentioned stoic, right? So the character I played, Reno, was very stoic. You know, he was very one-dimensional. And today there's got to be a lot more going on. So I don't think it would play. Renegade was like a show even older. It was like a Western, where the cowboys and the bandits. You know, I mean, it's good and bad. Now, it's blended. Sometimes the good guy has evil. Sometimes the bad guy has compassion. So yeah, it'd be difficult to do that show today, I think.
But you said about the boring. Do you think it would be boring?
The same show today would be dull, I think. I think the audience would demand a little bit more depth in the characters.
Staying on Renegade, which was a very big success in Italy too.
Yes, all over the world. Yeah,
and you did your own stunts there, rode real bikes and built a persona that was half character, half real in some way on the screen. So was there ever a moment on set where the line between Lorenzo and Reno started to blur? And did that ever get dangerous in real life?
I felt very close to the character. I wanted to be more like Reno in real life, you know. Reno was very noble. He always did the right thing. You know, there was never a doubt that Reno was gonna take the high road, right? In my life, I was not like that. In my life, you know, I've made a lot of mistakes, and I tried to be more like Reno in my life, and you know, I think there's certain aspects of my life that I think are good. I always try to be a good father to my kids, and my kids now are grown and they're doing very well, so that's an accomplishment. But yeah, no, Reno was for me, it was like the best. He was the bigger than life.
Okay, so perfect for you to play.
It was perfect for me to play, but difficult for me to emulate, if that makes sense.
But it should be that way.
Yeah, I think Reno was that way for a lot of people. You know, I think he was very inspirational for many guys. You know, I mean, I've been told by people that have watched the show when they were younger, and you know, they grew up and they started martial arts, or they grew their hair long, or they started riding Harleys. There was some inspiration, you know, from the character. So that makes me happy.
And in the show, you had the show is a share of action tropes, but it also had moments of real pathos and isolation. So if you could go back and rewrite an episode, not for ratings, but to say something truer about the character, what story would you tell now?
I would go back to the 2-episode movie that I did with Marty Cove, where that's his brother, and we end up. It's called Fighting Cage, and they packaged it together. It was 2 episodes packaged together as a movie. And I would have loved to have had more time to develop the relationship between Reno and his older brother. It was just lightly touched on because mainly it was just fighting in this cage type of match. But that would be a nice episode to go back and revisit and get into some more depth. But that wasn't the show, like I mentioned. I mean, the show was very almost superficial. You know, it's like there's 2 big fights, there's 1 kissing scene, and then there's Reno on the motorcycle.
So have you ever thought of reboot of Renegade, recently or in the early 2000s?
I wouldn't like to do it. I just don't think it would do it justice to do it today. Like I said before, it was perfect for that 30 years ago. It was perfect for that time. But I think it would have to be so different now to be able to be accepted and be interesting. So no, I'd rather just do new things.
Okay, and looking back at that character, I'm sorry, I'm talking about only Renegade, but
Yeah,
it was
fine.
very. Do you see that character more as a fantasy, or a satire, or a sincere response to what America wanted its heroes to be at that time?
All of it. It was satire, it was fantasy, and it was also during a period where I think America was trying to find its footing in terms of what's right and what's wrong. There was a lot of socio-political conflict in that era. It was just after the Reagan years, after the 90s, or after the 80s. And the 90s were, I think, a generation searching for the real truth, right? So it was a character that just, it came at the right time. I mean, everybody just loved it because it wasn't as complicated as life. It was much simpler.
Yes. So thank you very much.
You're welcome.